Hey there, and welcome to the podcast Tiling Connect, hosted by Mark Moskwa. This show is designed to connect people with the best information intended to strengthen the business of tiling. To keep up to date with all the episodes, don't forget to subscribe.
G'day everybody, Mark here from Tiling Connect. Welcome back to the show. Very lucky and fortunate to have a bit of a rock star joining us today. Start of the year 2025, nice new agenda for the next 12 months. And I thought, what better time to have someone on who is a real specialist in her field of remedial sports massage and therapy. The person that I feel has a bit of a very different touch to how she actually goes about her treatments and care for her clients. But I've got Roxy with me today from Move Better with Roxy. But I'm not going to steal her thunder. But welcome to the program, Roxy. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's really good to have you on the program. And as I said, what better way to start the year than to find out more about you and in particular what you do and how that can actually help the community and people live a better life through therapeutic measures and movement and that sort of stuff. And we have a lot of tradies and contractors in our community that I'm sure will benefit greatly from hearing more about you and what you do. So I'm going to stop talking now because I have a habit of just waffling on. How about you tell us about Roxy and what you do and how you got where you are?
Sure. So I'm Roxy, and as you can hear, I have an accent which comes from Milan, Italy. With a background in tax accountancy, I moved to Australia and I found my passion, which is fitness and movement and how to move better in the long term, not just in the short term. So I was starting my PT career in Brisbane a while ago now, nearly 9 years ago, and I saw a gap in the industry, which was people would show up at the gym and they would not be able to train because they injured themselves. Doing daily movement, like I bent over and, put my shoes on and all of a sudden my lower back broke, right? And at the time, I did not have a lot of knowledge about injury prevention and rehab. So I was just curious about how is that even possible? Because, in daily life, you bend over putting your shoes on a few times, right? And why all of a sudden your lower back just, gave up or you like, what happened? I got curious about what is happening in the body and why people get injured. So I looked into a few options and someone introduced me to Remedial massage for myself because I was an athlete at the time. I'm still an athlete, but at the time I was a little bit at the beginning of my journey. And I was competing in bodybuilding and someone is like, you should get a Remedial massage. I'm like, nah, I don't need to relax. I don't need a massage. I need to rest and recover. And they're like, trust me, come in. And I had a treatment with them and it just blew my mind how someone can just look at your body and be like, I bet that hurts. I bet that is quite not okay. And I'm like, how do you know? And I wanted to know everything about it. And that's how I started my Remedial massage diploma. And then I started my own business to see where it takes me in terms of how can I help others, not just myself, to move better in the long term in terms of, is it just stretching or is it more to stretching? Is it just foam rolling or is it more to that? Like, where can we go from there, right? Because most of the people that I work with, they stretch and they foam roll. Guess what? They are still in discomfort. They still get injured and they're still in pain. So my mission was to understand first for myself how I can help others. And I came up with, okay, Remedial, it's a good place to start, but you can't just rub people down, right? You kind of have to understand what else you can do for them, which is exercise prescription, and empower people to move better by just encouraging them to move more. because most of the people that I see, they don't move enough or they move too much. So you kind of have to slow them down as well. So it's finding that balance that works for the individual, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love deep diving into these sort of topics. However, I just want to dial it back a little bit. You mentioned earlier, Roxy, about your professional, being a professional athlete. What was your sport that you were in?
My very first sport was boxing,
Okay.
and the second one was bodybuilding, and then the third one was powerlifting, and
Wow.
now I'm doing high rocks.
And I've seen you training for High Rocks, and I'm inspired. I'm inspired to watch in the stand, not inspired to do it.
I feel you on that. I think it's important as an athlete to practice what I preach. So
Yeah.
I do encourage my clients, athlete or non-athlete, to find the sweet spot that works for them, because most of the time athletes just push it a little bit too much. And everyday athletes can push it way beyond their limits, and that's where injury happens, or discomfort, not necessarily injury, and it's not fun to be in pain, right?
No, not at all. And look, I can put my hand up, and obviously I'm one of your clients, and I've had firsthand experience at the type of work that you can do to give people movement back that they've lost through either injury or incorrect mechanisms, and how they do a particular anything in that space, in a sports space, whether it's strength training or high rocks or or as you say, being a professional athlete in any field, whether it's running or boxing or something like that. So no, that's very cool. And how long have you been in Australia for now?
9 years on the 26th of Jan this year.
Oh, wow, Australia Day. That's awesome.
I know. I landed exactly on that day without even knowing it. I had no idea it was Australia Day, to be honest, at the time.
That's a good sign. It's we've adopted you as an Aussie, and you've come in on the right day.
I do have to work on my accent, I guess, a little bit more.
No, that's very, very cool. Well, look, I've got a whole host of questions that I wanted to throw at you today, to get a bit more of an understanding about you and what you do and how it all works, because I'm sure that there's a lot more to it than just giving someone some specific techniques to use when they go home. But I suppose we probably need to really understand the body and how it all works and that sort of thing. So I suppose, how would you explain the connection between body movement, physical health, and overall well-being to someone that's sort of unfamiliar with your field?
Yeah, look, I think most of the people I see underestimate their mental state, which is super important. Like, most of the people are stressed in today's society. It's either stress or depression or anxiety. So mental health impacts massively your physical health, because if you cannot rest and recover properly, not necessarily just from training, but from your daily life, you cannot perform, right, at work, in the gym, whatever your field is. So I think most of the people underestimate that, just because they do not think there's a direct connection between stress and physical. What is happening when you're always wired and you can never switch off? Your body keeps going because your central nervous system is super wired, right? Your central nervous system, especially your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic is when you're always on. You are in fight or flight all the time, right? Because that's where stress is. You never know how to calm your central nervous system down to go to parasympathetic, into the rest and digest. You cannot ever relax. That can create pain, can create tightness. And most of my clients, they're not necessarily in pain. They just go like, I feel so stiff. I am so stiff. Where's this tightness and stiffness coming from? And then you do your assessments, because as a remedial massage therapist, we have to assess how you move. So then we treat and then we reassess. So when you do your assessments and you see the range of motion is there, there's nothing structurally that is affected, right? So
Mm.
you're like, okay, that's your flag to be like, okay, cool. What else is happening in your life? Like, how's life going? What do you do for work? Oh, for example, I'm an accountant. I work whatever 80 hours a week. I do not train because I don't have time. I cannot ever have a good night's sleep. And then you go like, okay, so this is not just physical. It's a little
Mm.
bit more than physical. But also other people that come to me with chronic pain or injuries, they've been in pain for such a long time that they do not know how to live without pain. So their central nervous system is so wired that they do not understand how to actually, switch off. And most of my clients are like, how do we switch off? How can I stop all this thinking?
Mm.
Because I think it's really important to educate people about what they can do. It's not just like, yeah, come back, I'll treat you again, come back and I'll treat you again. If they never get out of that cycle of, sorry, I cannot sleep properly, I cannot
Mm.
eat properly, I cannot recover properly, you are not actually helping them that much, are you? You're giving them temporary relief during your 60, 90 minutes, whatever they're spending with you. But then when they go out there on their own, they kind of have to have a couple of tools to be like, okay, what do I do? Where is
Mm.
this coming from? Let's unpack it together, because it's a little bit more than, yes, go and do these stretches. But if you cannot sleep properly at night, you can do all the stretches in the world, right? Also, your diet, that impacts a lot how you feel, right? So eating properly, sleeping properly, managing your stress on the top of training or doing specific mobility drills, that's what's going to help you in the long term. It's not just remedial, it's going to sort your life problems, right?
Mm.
Remedial gives you more range of motion in the short term, calms the central nervous system down, but also in the long term, it's quite up to you to make some changes in your life and in your lifestyle to actually move and feel better in the long term. So, yes, there's a very, it's linked what's happening in your brain with what's happening in your body. And that's because of the stress we live in and the society we live in. It's like go, 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 be productive all the time.
Yeah.
um, you have to overachieve all the time. You have to hit your targets. You have all this to-do list, especially at the beginning of the year. Everyone comes to me with these big goals, and I'm like, okay,
Yep. Slow down,
where are we
one at
going
a
from
time.
here? Literally, and it's
Yeah.
overwhelming. In all honesty, it's super overwhelming to have so much to do on your to-do list. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I wish I knew what I knew today. I knew 20 years ago, or even 25 years ago. I don't want to completely reveal my age on the program, but I think I started seeing remedial massage therapists probably in my early 20s. And I've seen a lot of people because I've lived in Melbourne for 10 years. So I had a fantastic therapist down there who ended up moving back to New Zealand and, broke everyone's heart because she was just amazing. And I was seeing her for a number of years. But I've bounced around in between therapists over many years because I've always done some sort of physical training or activity, whether it's at the gym or, sports and things like that. So my mind has been conditioned that going and seeing a therapist will help with a whole range of different issues that happen, muscular and other in the body. So it's been amazing, that journey. And I can attest to the fact that since I started seeing you, I have not only the same level of support, but also I have an understanding around the tools that I need to take away from every session and then apply it practically at home or at the gym, because you can't just keep going and seeing a remedial massage therapist every week. Well, you could, which is fine because that's there are some people out there like that. But I enjoy the learning side of what you bring to the table, and all those bits and pieces. So I think it's great that you can actually amalgamate all of that, and that people actually have a bit of a toolkit to take away after every session to use.
Yeah, but look, I think that's what most of my new clients are surprised. Like when they come and see me, they just assume that they're going to go face down on a massage table after 2 seconds they're in the room. And I'm like, okay, what do you do for work? How do you sit? How do you stand? Do you have to go up and down stairs? Where is this lower back pain coming from? Let's assess. Let's move here. Let's move there. Okay, cool. Go on the massage table. You're going to sideline facing that wall, and then we're going to start with this and this and that. And they just look at me like, okay, I have never been moved this much, or I have never done this much during a treatment. But I believe we're human beings that we do a lot of things, right? So we're moving a lot. Why would I never move you in a context where I'm supposed to increase your range of motion? So just rubbing you down for 60 minutes or whatever you're booking in for, it's not going to do it, because then you will go and move, right?
Yeah.
So I'm supposed to move the joint as well. I'm supposed to move you with movement. So then you are more empowered to think that, oh, I can actually move through that range. So, for example, someone comes in with a reduced range in their shoulders, they can get just to here, they can't go all the way there. If through the session I work with the central nervous system to be like, hey, you can move past that range, and slowly we build that bigger range of motion, in their minds, they're creating the knowledge and the not fear around movement, right? So they are not scared to push through that range because it's going to hurt. Because what I have just done is improving your range of motion and showing you that I improved that range of motion. So you leave my room with, oh, I can actually move. I don't have to be scared of movement, because most of the time we're told rest, right?
Yeah.
Don't move. Don't go to the gym. Just rest it. Cool. And people do that. Guess what's happened next? It comes back as soon as they move, right? And they're like, oh, what just happened? Well, you didn't do anything to work through that range that is restricted. So what's going to happen? Nothing, right? You just rest, and then you stand up, and it's like, oh, my lower back again. Yeah, right. You just stood up from doing nothing, right? So nothing has changed. So I think it's important to empower people to be less fearful of certain movements, because in all honesty, we should be able to move in all the ranges, because as humans, we should be able to jump, to run, to walk, to stand up, to bend over, to rotate our spine. All those ranges are functional. So why sometimes we get so scared of moving into those ranges? That's because at some stage we probably felt pain, or we probably been educated that, bending over without bending at your knees probably is not that safe, right?
Yeah.
But also in real life, most of the time, and most of my clients bent over without, bending at the knees. And it should be okay. It shouldn't break your back. It shouldn't cause any pain, because we are supposed to move, because we're human beings, right?
Absolutely. And look, that I mean, that sort of leads into more of, one of the next questions that I have as well, is that, I mean, what would you consider some of the more common physical challenges or injuries that you see in your practice, and what specific sort of techniques or movement education would you use to address them?
Yeah, so I think the most common ones is lower back pain.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Everyone has a
Touching on
lower
what you
back
just
pain.
said. Yep.
Lower back pain that can translate into a few other conditions that could be sciatica. It's a very common one. However, it's most of the time misdiagnosed. People do believe that sciatica is everything that is pretty much lower back pain with some sort of neural refer down the leg. So there's so many types of lower back pain that can cause or cannot cause sciatica.
Mm.
Then we have the other common one that is headaches,
Yeah,
headaches and
right.
migraines,
Yeah.
um, TMJ dysfunctions, so jaw pain. It's another common one, and all these three are connected to stress. When
Yeah.
we are stressed, we tend to clench more, to grind more. There's a lot of tension around the neck. That takes us to the next very common condition, which is tight neck, tight upper traps, that then create these headaches and migraines because everything happens at the neck. Um, but that also comes from another condition that is chronic tightness, which I had no idea it can actually be a condition. Like some
Wow.
people, yeah, some people cannot actually move a lot through their spine, and it becomes chronically stiff. But chronically does not necessarily mean it has been going on for a lot of years. It's just it's so stiff and so rigid that they cannot access a lot of range of motion. And that can create shoulder pain, can create a lot of neuroreferral. If you ever heard of the thoracic outlet syndrome, it's a condition that it's in the shoulder but comes from tightness through the neck. It is very common in hairdressers, painters, everyone that works with the hands over their heads. Um, there's a lot of plantar fasciitis happening with all the running that people are doing nowadays. Everyone is a marathon runner or a high rocks athlete.
Or
So,
trying to be.
yes. There's a lot of shin splints as well in runners.
Mm.
Sports injuries like ACL injuries, meniscus tears. I see a lot of conditions in the clinic, but I think the most common ones are neck, shoulders tightness and pain or some sort of injury through there, like bursitis, or
Mm.
the tennis elbow. It's another common one. Golfer's elbow, not as common. But yeah, if I was to pick one, it would be lower back pain.
Yeah, wow. I
Yeah,
have to say,
it's
out of
very common.
out of all of the ones that you've mentioned, I think you've treated me for at least half of them. So I can put my hand up again and say it works. Go and see Roxy.
Oh, that's good to hear, right?
But
Um,
but
yeah.
it's that education piece too, right? Going back to what I said before, you can go to a therapist, and I'm sure they're all amazing, and you can go and see a therapist, and you can have a remedial massage done, and yes, you can be thrown on the table straight away and just have 60 minutes of work done, walk out of there feeling amazing. However, probably the next day or the day after, that pain might just come back again because you're not actually doing something to help prolong the pain coming back, and you're not working on it every day, because these are habits that you need to form to help get that extra movement back into your body, or whatever it might be. I don't want to talk too much because I'm not a physician, but but yeah, I certainly
Yeah, I
get.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also what normally helps my clients is the education about what they can do. They all feel like, oh, okay, now I understand what the problem is and I understand how to treat it, instead of being like, oh, I'm going to be in pain for the rest of my life and this is how life is going to look like now. I think that's quite sad. I have a few clients that they come in because they've been trying a lot of other things. So they just, like, you can see the emotional state they're in, which is this has been going on for at least 10 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's so emotional to see someone in so much pain. I had a couple of ladies in the past weeks they were crying, and we are not trying to deal with that, right? So you
Yeah.
just have this person that has been dealing with this problem for whatever number of years, and they crying in the front of you, and you're like, okay, where do we start? Because there's so much mental to unpack there that you can't
Yeah.
just be like, okay, yeah, we're starting phase down. Yeah, I'll see you in a couple of seconds. So you kind of have to empower them to be like, okay, look, what we can do today is let's see how you move. What can you do?
Mm.
And then we're going to work with that as a first step to take you to this other movement a little bit, progressing you down the track to eventually move pain free one day. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important to educate people about, hey, you're not going to be in pain for the rest of your life. Pain is temporary, because pain, it's not the cause. Pain will always going to be a symptom of something that your brain perceives as unsafe.
Yeah.
So the pain is there to stop you from aggravating something that your brain is like, hey, this doesn't feel quite right. Stop for a second and do not go there,
Mhm.
and it's going to prevent you from making more harm.
Yeah.
So brain is your friend.
Yeah.
It's not trying to destroy you. It's not
Mhm.
that it's trying to hate you to prevent you from moving. No, your brain is there to be like, hey, 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 no, 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 this is not okay.
Yeah.
Stop for a second. We need to reevaluate everything. Okay. So it prevents
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
from harming yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. It's like
So
a
I
warning.
think,
It's a
yeah.
warning mechanism.
Yeah, yeah. It's defending you. It's actually
Yeah.
protecting you from dying eventually. So it's really important to listen to that pain though, because what's happening and what I see a lot in the clinic is people have been in pain for 10, 20 years, never done anything about it, because eventually
Wow.
that became their normal. So they're like, oh, what do you mean? Not everyone has headaches. No. Oh, what do you mean? Not everyone has low back pain? No, it's
No.
not normal. It's
No.
your normal, and everyone's normal look a little bit different.
And it's and that whole pain piece is really important, right? Because that I've had a knee injury. It's going on 3 months now, and I've just had an X-ray done. I'm waiting for the results back today or tomorrow, because all of the therapy that I've been doing on it has been assisting, but it's still not repaired. So it obviously has to be something a little bit more deeper.
Yes.
But the weight of having pain on your shoulders, regardless of whether it's a knee, lower back, tennis elbow, any of the things that you've mentioned, carrying that around for 3 months is such a burden. And I mean that it's hard. You've got to use an additional amount of energy in your system every day to fight not only everything that the world throws at you, but you've also got to
Yeah.
fight the pain that you're carrying around, because that will either restrict you or it will just weigh you down, because you're constantly thinking about, when is this actually going to be repaired? When is it going to get better? Because you may be waiting on, it might be, results like I'm waiting on, or it could potentially be you might be in some sort of program that takes time to repair that joint or that part of the body. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting to hear people's stories about pain. There are people that they cannot live without pain. You'd be surprised. They just keep pushing until pain becomes their constant in life, and then keep chasing pain, because some of us grew up with no pain no gain, right? So
Yeah.
everything that comes with pain is amazing, and it's really good for you, because what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? But
Exactly.
well, it depends, because as you said, you are not in a great mood, right? You're a little bit grumpier, you're a little bit less approachable.
Mm.
So it affects you and affects people around you.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to talk to people about how to get out of pain.
Yeah.
Because, as we said, Remedial can help you in the short term, but in the longer term, it's up to you. So it's important to understand, like in your knee case, what else is under there that is causing all this pain, because 3 months, it's a decent amount of time to carry around, as you said, all this pain and not be able to move as you would like to move.
Yeah.
And that would restrict you, and that would cause a little bit of discomfort throughout the day as well. So at the end of your day, which, you kind of have to work, interact with other people, and whatever else is happening in your life, on the top of that, here's your knee as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So
I know, right?
I totally get it.
So, Roxy, another question I have for you regarding this entire space. I know that, and we've already touched on it quite a bit, about educating your clients, about their bodies and movement, and obviously that's essential for long-term health. What sort of techniques have you got? I know that you've shared with me in the past particular videos, and I know that you're very social media savvy, which I love.
I try to.
I think you're doing an amazing job. Tell me, there was a few videos that you shared with me on YouTube. What are some of the other assets that you have that you use to help people on their pain-less journey when they come to you?
Yeah, so it's funny. I give people so much information that at some stage I think they kind of zone out, and they just go like, yep. So I kind of need to, and I was in the position to help a lot of people, but in between sessions, they forget what I say, because I say a lot of things, I'm Italian, I talk a lot. So they're like, Roxy, completely forgot. So I believe it helped a lot for me to create this YouTube channel that has, I think, 90 plus videos at the moment, which are all based on clients that I treat. So things that I see in daily life in clinic. So everyone after the treatment gets a couple of things, which is access to this YouTube channel that is accessible to everyone. However, I find if I give people the link to it, they will actually do it, instead of just being like, check my YouTube channel, you'll be fine. I actually detail everything, and I'm like, okay, cool, start here. So I give them precise instructions on where to start and with what to start, because it can be overwhelming seeing 80, 90 plus videos and be like, okay, what do I do first? Okay. But also, after a couple of weeks or 4 weeks, whatever the time frame that I believe they need to follow those YouTube channel videos, is I follow up and I'm like, okay, how did you go? Is there anything else that you need? Is there anything that we need to modify? Are you progressing? Are you not progressing? Besides from that, I think it's really important, as I said, to guide them to what they can do to de-stress, to manage that stress that they have. So I find the coloring books help a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah, mindful coloring apparently helps, especially high achievers, people that they have to do things to perfection and they have to finish off something. It helps them to staying within the lines and do a really good job. So they dedicate at least 10 minutes to this, which helps them to not focus on where their brain is at. So they can just focus on coloring and putting some sort of art together. Other people do not necessarily like coloring. We basically discuss about what makes you happy. What is something that you do or you can learn or you always wanted to do that you never had time to? So a lot of people came up with a lot of activities I never thought of, like someone plays the piano, someone built a guitar. It took him 2 years to build the guitar. It's a 4-hour sessions. Every single week he goes, sits there for 4 hours to build the guitar. But that helped him to chill and relax. That's his zone out time. So I think it's important to guide people, challenge their thinking and be like, what do you like? Like, what exactly do you like? Because we are so wired to help others and what do people like? What does my partner like? What does my mom like? What does my sister? But what do you like? When was the last time you actually made time for you? So I think the tool that I like most is to listen to people finding what they like. A client, she's 30 plus and she started ballet the other day. I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
well, okay. I thought ballet wasn't for adults. And here she goes. And she's like, yeah, loving it. I really love it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a physical activity. Another client, she's in her 60s. She started salsa dancing.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, great. If that works for you, if that's your time to get away from whatever's happening in your life, in your brain, use that as a tool to distress
Yeah,
and
nice.
manage that stress. Yeah.
Very awesome. Roxy, tell me, this is probably a pretty straightforward question to answer, but what are some common misconceptions that people have about remedial massage or sports therapy that you wish that you could just debunk?
I wish I had like a couple of days to do this. So much. I feel like people normally just think Remedial is this magical solution to their problems, and they just have to come in once and you snap your fingers and boom, everything goes
Magic.
away.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. This magic stick that we just do a little bit of, what's the word? Abracadabra, and off we go. We
Yeah.
good. I wish that was the case, but look, um, a session of remedial it's not going to um, do a magic drill for you. Okay, you still have to put in the work. So I think we need to educate people about what they can do, not about what we as therapists can do. So yes, let's stop thinking that remedial is this magic pill that you can have, and yeah, you'll be sorted for the rest of your life. Also, another thing that always makes me smile, especially with males, everyone is, it has to hurt. If it doesn't hurt, it doesn't work.
Right.
Well, well, let's talk about it. Especially as a female practitioner, sometimes, and I'm quite small, I'm not a bigger frame. I like to think I'm a big girl and I'm strong and, everything else in between. But I do get some bigger males that they just look at me, it's like, "Oh, okay, you my therapist. Are you going to be, strong enough to do a deep tissue?" And that just makes me smile because it's not about how deep you can go. I can cause quite a fair amount of pain if I want because I know how to leverage my body. But it's not about how much I can hurt you during the session because that's not necessarily translating into a better result. So, for example, in someone that has been in pain for 10 years and all they know is pain, and as much as they love pain, all they need is less pain
Yeah.
because that's all they know. So, to help their brain and their central nervous system to go into a parasympathetic, into the rest and digest, to help them to recover, we kind of have to create less pain. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to explain to people this because they do not understand. Or can you press a little bit harder on that? It's really painful. Well, if it's really painful, it means that you might need a little bit less pressure on that. And also, there's other tools. We don't necessarily have to hurt people and bruise them. And that was really good massage because I'm all bruised. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, no. Also, sports massage are not just for athletes. It's funny because I had an older lady the other day. She's like, "Oh, I'm not here for sports massage because I'm not an athlete." I'm like, "Okay, no worries.
Thanks for the heads up.
You're an everyday athlete. It's
Yeah.
okay." Sports massages are not necessarily if you do a sport. There's different techniques that we use in sports massage, but it's mostly myofascial release. So you might be fully clothed or just the shirt off. That it's not a lot of balms and oils involved. It's a little bit more movement through certain range, but it's not necessarily just for athletes. Everyone can benefit from an improved range of motion so you can move a little bit better in the longer term. So I like when people just go, oh, I'm in no pain, so I don't necessarily come and see you. That's fine. That's completely fine. I'm not here to be having someone to babysit, right? Or codependency. We don't like that, right? So you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to see me all the time. But the presence or not presence of pain does not necessarily mean that you are all good. Because
Mm.
most of my clients, especially regular clients, they come in as like, oh, they come in every 6, 8 weeks, and they're like, oh, I had this appointment booked there. I did not know if I needed to come in because I'm pretty good. I'm moving well. Everything is
Yeah.
fine. Nothing hurts. And then we start to assess, and there's a lot of restriction through the ranges, and they're like, oh, I actually needed it. Hey, yes, you do need regular treatment, not necessarily just from Remedial, but if you're seeing a physio, if you're seeing a chiro, if you're seeing any other allied health professionals, because unfortunately, as I said, we don't have a magic stick that we use once and off you go. But it's also important to be on top of things. So if something hurts, come in. Don't wait for pain to get really, really bad and then be like, oh, I wish I have done this sooner. I wish I've come sooner. I'm like, yeah, I wish too. So it would
Yeah,
take you less
absolutely.
treatments instead
Mm.
of a lot of treatments. So yeah, it's important to talk about this myths because most of the people just go like, ah, remedial or like a massage is something for rich people or wealthy people. It's like, is it though? Like, let's prioritize what it's important for us, and eventually you will make the time, and probably you can save some money to look after your own health
Mm.
instead of just thinking that everything is so expensive at the moment. By all means, everything is super expensive at the moment. That's why I'm all for educating you to be able to do things on your own. So you don't necessarily need me every single week, or every 2 weeks, or
Exactly.
whatever it is. So you're
Yeah.
saving money, basically.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then look, I think, having those sort of customized care sort of packages and the way that you do it, and I'm sure you'll tell us a little bit more about that in a second. That's important to be able to, take that home and practice and, eat, sleep, repeat, so to speak, with regards to that movement piece. And I imagine that, actually, I'll ask your range of clients. I mean, I imagine that there's probably a lot of diversity amongst them. Do you get a lot of contractors and construction workers come through with injuries?
Yes, tradies. Look, honestly, there's a couple of guys that they are electricians, and they are in their 20s, 22. Both of them, they train together. They're mates. They do the same job, and they have the same pain, which is
Oh, wow.
sciatic pain. Yeah, at 22, it just like literally breaks my heart. And they are like rugby boys. They've been training their whole lives. They train, they still train. They're super active. Sciatic pain at 22. I'm like, guys, there's a lot that you could do. I work with painters a lot because shoulder pain.
Shoulder
And
pain.
also,
Yeah.
yeah, shoulder pain is very common in painters because all they do is having their hands over here all the time. Electricians as well, but mostly painters, people that work in constructions. I think it's a really hard work that they do. Like, there's this other dude that I'm looking after. He has a tennis elbow. He is an air conditioning installer, so a lot of overhead work, but
Mm.
also when he goes to the gym, all he trains is biceps. And I'm like,
Right. Double
okay,
whammy.
let's have a chat.
Yeah.
Biceps, triceps, because we need bigger biceps, we need bigger traps. By all means, I'm not here to judge you, but I think there's so much more that you can do in the gym besides from a bra session. Nothing against the bra sessions, we all love a good one, but yeah, there's there's a lot of variety in my clients. My youngest client is 8, and
Wow.
she comes in for lower back pain,
Oh my
which
gosh.
is quite insane. She's a very active kid. However, she gets lower back pain from sitting around, from falling off monkey bars, or whatever she does in her life. And
Yeah.
my oldest is 80. He's a golfer. He loves golfing, and he has been sitting his whole life. So, not very active. All of a sudden, let's go and rotate our spine as much as we can. So, yeah, again, lower back pain.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
super common. I think it's the most common thing that I see in the clinic, and most of my clients just live with it in daily life. So, yeah, everyone's lower back pain, though, can be completely different. That's why it's important to understand what do you do for work, what position you are in during the day, and where do you spend most of the time. Like if you're sitting, your low back pain is going to look completely different from any of my tradies. Like the electricians that I trade, they do different work. The way they stand off those ladders, I'm like, okay, is there any chance you can change the ladder, or like,
Yeah.
can you be in a different position at all? If not, then we kind of have to work with what we have. But yeah, wide variety, common denominator, lower back pain.
Wow. I would never have, well, I know I've suffered recently from lower back pain, which I've had a few people help me with, and I'm sort of getting much better now, which is good. And so I understand about lower back pain. It's certainly not pleasant at all. But
No.
Roxy, tell me, do you recommend any simple daily movement practices or self-care routines that would help prevent injuries in that preventative space and, you know, sort of maintain mobility so before they even get to you, they're prepared, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's quite important to understand that everything evolves around your spine and hips. So your hips are your center of your body, and the spine is right on top. Everything else attaches to your spine and attaches to the hips. So if we maintain a healthy spine and healthy hips, then everything is going to feel better. Also, the rib cage is very underestimated. It's quite important how we breathe. So I think the most important thing that I preach is move in a way that works for you and your body, your schedule, your job. I think the most important thing that you could do for your health is move your spine, move your hips. I do not necessarily believe that static stretching is going to help you a lot because you're just increasing your range of motion in the short term. I think mobility is the key long term to access more ranges. And mobility can look as simple as a deep squat. Now, I know for sure most of my clients cannot access a deep squat just now. So work your way there. Why a deep squat? Think about babies, right? When we are babies, we sit in a deep squat every day. And have you ever seen a baby standing up being like, oh, my back is so sore now. Oh, I need to sit down. No, they
No.
sit in a deep squat every day. They do everything in a deep squat. And we look at them as adults as like, oh, it must be nice. Must be nice to be able
Yeah.
to do that. But I think accessing a deep squat is opening your hips. It's allowing you to rest in a functional position. If you cannot reach a deep squat, raise your heels, go on your toes, work to get down there so your hips can move a little bit more. Because in a seated position, sorry, maybe you're a driver, for example. So you do not necessarily sit, but you're driving. You're still sitting. In which position are you in? It's a very shortened position for your legs to be in, for your hips to be in. That's why your back is sore because your hips are so tight. So move your hips a little bit more. The simplest movement ever, it's a squat. And for those coming at me with squat hurts my knees, when you are sitting, you're squatting to sit to that chair. So every single time you sit, congratulations, you're doing a squat, and I bet your knees are not hurting as much, right? Every single time you sit in a car, it's the same pattern. It's a
Mhm.
squat, okay? You're just not thinking of it as an exercise, but it is a squat. So hip mobility, spine mobility, it's really important. A lot of people do not know where to start, but think simple. Your spine bends over, bends backwards, rotates side to side, and side bends. As long as you go through all these ranges with basic exercises that could look, remember physical activities days, like in school when you just go
Yeah.
side to side and you rotate and you just move? Do those. Start there. Look, it doesn't have to be fancy. I know on Instagram and on YouTube, there's so many
Mm.
fancy things you can do.
Yeah.
Start small. Start really small, and also observe how your body reacts to these things, because if there's any pain, and I don't know, you've seen this YouTube channel video or you've seen this Instagram thing, probably it's not for you. You're not quite there just yet. A
Yeah.
handstand push up, probably it's not where you should start.
There's
Let's
plenty of that on there.
Yeah, literally, like, just make it nice and simple for you. So
Mm.
start with your squats. Start with bending over, trying to touch your toes every single day. Take a big deep breath in and try to reach a little bit lower. Your lower back hurts to come up, bend at your knees, stand up. Or go down onto your fours and do a child pose. I think pretty much everyone is familiar with child poses. They're your very first baby steps. And I know it doesn't look fancy, but trust me, you don't need the fancy stuff. You need the
Mhm.
basic stuff so you can actually move in daily life.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. Roxy, we're running out of time, but you've been amazing so far today. I just have one last question I want to throw at you, because what I love about you and what you do, you're very comprehensive in your explanations, and you've been so thorough today that you've actually already covered off a couple of the questions. So we can fast track and
That's good.
jump to the conclusion. So tell me, have there been any sort of recent developments or trends in your field that you're finding sort of particularly exciting or transformative that are going to come out?
They are out there. I think they've been around for a while now. It's just in my industry, it's really sad that we all treat everyone as everyone else. So every single individual has a different story, has a different history of injuries, has different mechanics, different anatomy. Okay. So I think it's quite important to start reintroducing personalized care. Okay. Your low back pain is going to be different from the electrician 22 years old pain. Okay. Everyone is different, not just for the age, but how they move, what do they do in daily life. So personalized care, I'm really excited to see more therapists introducing this from what I have seen, because I do get remedial as well. I needed to.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of people lately introducing it. The majority is still a little bit off, because it takes time and critical thinking, and people might roll their eyes when you are taking 5 minutes out of their time. But I think it's important to educate people about this. So definitely another trend that I have introduced recently as well, because I've seen the benefits for myself. It's electrotherapy.
Nice.
Electrotherapy is, yeah, it's a TENS machine. Let's call it TENS machine. It's not quite a TENS machine, but it's something that stimulates your muscle. You can use it with pads, or you can attach it to needles. So you go a little bit deeper into the tissue and stimulates that muscle without you contracting it. So, for example, if there's someone that has been in chronic pain, could not move a lot, what you can do is contract that muscle involuntary. So they don't have to move at all. This would
Mm.
be for quite chronic pain, or for someone that does not necessarily understand how to contract a certain muscle. So it's really fascinating how it works, and most of my clients are enjoying it. So yeah, I think that's really important to introduce. And I'm excited that I can offer this as well. I upskilled, which I think it's really important for a therapist to stay up to date with, different trends, but also to try and see what works on different clients.
Yeah,
Also,
absolutely.
joint mobilization. It's something that I have introduced recently, and it's a really good trend that has started like ages ago with physical therapy, physiotherapists, chiros, myotherapists. They all use it now. It's open to remedials as well. So I have attended
Yeah,
a course
nice.
on it last year, and I was surprised to learn that as a remedial massage therapist, we can mobilize the joints. Mobilization, don't think about, high velocity. So we're not talking about the cracks, okay? That would be for the chiros or not myos, but chiros, physios, and osteos that they can do it. As physical therapists, they can do it. Us as manual therapists, remedial massage therapists, we can get to grade 4. So before the crack, we cannot crack you back. Okay. But we can mobilize the spine and the rib cage and the knees and the elbows and pretty much all the joints. That is really good to be able to do, because it gives you way more range in less time. So you can make everything a little bit more efficient
Yeah.
within your treatment. Yes, absolutely.
Roxy, you've been amazing today.
Great.
You're a wealth of knowledge, particularly in your field. There's no doubt about that. And I really want to thank you a lot for sharing your journey with us and telling us a lot more about movement and remedial therapy and how it can help people. And look, I'm blown away. I'm sure that our community is going to be blown away as well. And you may find that you're going to get quite a few tiling contractors knocking on your door because, in construction work, there's all of these types of movements that we do that is repetitive and can cause injury, as you've stated today. If people want to get in touch with Move Better with Roxy, and have a bit more of a discussion, or even just book in a session to come and see you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
There's a few ways, actually. As you said, I'm quite active on socials because at the moment, everyone that runs a business kind of has to wear this hat of the social media. That's how people know about you, but also they can text you or they can DM you. So I'm really active on Instagram. On Facebook, you can find me with Move Better with Roxy, or just my full name, which is Roxana Nae. On YouTube as well, I am there as Move Better with Roxy / Roxana Nae. My new website is coming up soon, so you can still find me. Yeah, you can still find me on Google. If you just Google Move Better with Roxy, you can find my website there and my booking app, which is called Fresher. And you can just send me an email or a text message. There's all my information out there. If you just Google Move Better with Roxy or Roxana Nae, there's a lot of stuff coming up because I am pretty much very active everywhere.
Nice.
Just to create more brand awareness and helping more people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And my recommendation would be just book in a session, have a chat with Roxy and go from there, and then work out what you need to do for your future self, because it will be very grateful that you've taken a step in that direction. So, but Roxy, thank you so much for coming on today. You are an absolute gem. I've really enjoyed having a chat, and I know you and I talk a lot, but it's really good to hear a more thorough breakdown of what you do and in the industry and how it works and how people can benefit from taking these sort of steps and particularly in that movement space. I think it's critically important. And as I said earlier on, I wish that my 20-year-old self knew what I know today, and be very thankful, probably even more thankful.
It is. It surely is. Thank you so much for having you, Mark, though. I really appreciate your time.
You're very welcome, Roxy. As we say it on every show, until next time, stay connected, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tiling Connect. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast. To see more of Tiling Connect, jump on our socials and follow us via LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook. If you'd like to be part of the show, email us at tilingconnect@gmail.com. Until next time, stay connected.